Call to order the City of Saugatuck City Council meeting for February 24th, 2025. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, Sarah, who's filling in for Jamie. Will you call the roll?
Sure. Anderson,
Here.
Clark,
Here.
Dean,
Here.
Gardner,
Here.
Muncy,
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
And Stanton is not here.
And can I get a motion to excuse Mayor Pro Tem Stanton's absence?
I'll make a motion to excuse Mayor Pro Tem Lawrence Stanton.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye, yes.
Opposed? All right, thank you. And just a note that Russ is going to need to leave at 7:45. So hopefully we'll be done, but if not, we won't grab his ankles as he goes. That takes us to mayor's comments. I had a fun experience after the workshop last week. I got to go talk to the Cub Scouts aged 5 to 10 with Barry Johnson. So they wanted to speak to an elected official just to learn about local government. And it was great. Barry is a longtime scout. So he was there in his uniform, which was pretty cool. My Girl Scout uniform is long in my past, but it was fun to answer questions and talk to them. When I first met with Chris after becoming mayor, she asked me if I was having fun, and it's a little rocky time. And so I kind of said, not exactly. But that was fun, and it's nice to, it's quite an honor to get to do stuff like that. So, and it's great to see young people involved in organizations that teach them leadership and build community, and then all of the parents who are so involved in developing them in all of the ways that they will be leaders in their lives. So, and hats off to Barry, who has been involved in that for many, many, many years. So that's it for me.
All right.
City manager comments.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council. So your Oval Beach has done it again with more accolades, this time from TripAdvisor. And the CVB sent this out on Friday after I think I sent a message to you, but they kind of put it in the perspective that this honor celebrates the highest level of excellence in travel and is awarded to destinations that receive a significant number of outstanding reviews and ratings from the TripAdvisor community over the past year. Out of over 8 million listings, fewer than 1% achieved this distinction. So
Wow.
It was on the TV tonight.
it was
Yep.
great. So, I mean, that says a lot. I mean, it was the only, on top 25 beach in the United States, the only beach in Michigan, and was really up there in some really great company with beaches in Hawaii and in California and Florida. And more accolades to Oval Beach and all that you do to provide resources for it, and our staff that work out there and manage it. It's just a beautiful place. So wanted to highlight that this evening. And then the ethics policy, as you recall, you approved that actually at your last meeting. And since that time, we've been hard at work kind of carrying out your requirements that we distribute that policy. The Holland Sentinel did a piece on it. The mayor mentioned it in her recent letter to the editor as well. But we've sent it out to all of your board and commission members. We've shared it with all of our staff. And so Jamie and Sarah are hard at work kind of gathering the acknowledgement forms for everyone. We've sent it out in your e-news and we put it on social media as well. So we've hit and then it's on actually each board and commission's piece of our website. It's listed there under documents for each of those as well. So I think we've hit a lot of different areas with it and distributed it far and wide as you intended. And like I said, clerk and deputy clerk will be continuing to work on those forms. So that's all I have this evening.
Great. Takes us to 6 agenda changes. Can I get a motion to add Commissioner Lubbers as a guest speaker? So that would be 7B.
I'll make a motion to add Commissioner Brad Lubbers as a guest speaker this evening.
Second.
All in favor? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right. Which takes us to guest speakers. We'll start with Sergeant Haas. Thanks for joining us.
All right, you guys all should have a packet that I got provided for you guys. I apologize, it wasn't in the packet that was sent out last week, but it's been a busy month at our place, so. I'll start out by introducing the team that we ended our year with and what our current team is here. Deputy Nick Haskell, he works day shift. He is one of our SWAT team. He's on our SWAT team. He's a SWAT team sniper and one of our lead firearms instructors at the sheriff's office. Deputy Melina Castro. She's also your other day shift car. She was working today. Her big specialty is she likes to be in the schools and helping mentor kids and whatnot. He likes to do a lot of the community events. Very, very excited when she gets to work with the parades and whatnot around here. Deputy Mark Kaminsky, he's pretty new in our department yet. Has some previous experience down in North Carolina. His current things right now is he's getting into accident investigations as one of our accident investigators, so. Deputy Tucker Hoover. He is, his specialty, he's in, Deputy Kaminsky and Deputy Hoover are both night shift officers. Deputy Hoover is working this evening. And his specialty is evidence technician and accident investigations. So he's slowly working up the ladder in our accident investigations and probably be one of our primary ones here in a few years, so. All right. And also, we had two others here last year. One is moved on to Ottawa County, Deputy Conrad Boyce. Deputy Bill Plain, he was here for several years, so he had transitioned out last fall. So moving on here to this next page, which kind of gives just a brief overview of the year throughout the county, a little bit of the county. So countywide, the sheriff's office handled 27,357 complaints. That does not include like traffic stops or any kind of call that doesn't require an incident number. Within the city here, we had 1,127 complaints that deputies handled. They had 743 stops within the city, and they had 181 school contacts that were documented. So those are the school contacts that they put down in their daily report log that I can see, yep, they were out of the school at this point in time. So our reserve deputies, I mean, those, I don't know if you guys know, but I'm sure you do, the reserve deputies that work down here in the summertime. They're here on the Friday and Saturday evenings. When they're available, they get out to the local beach and work on the weekends. They help out with parades. They are very crucial to special events and making things work over here in the city. They logged 537 hours last year. And special events that assisted, these special events assisted with, those are special events that require extra manpower than what our normal car would be able to handle. So by my count, we had 10 special events that we assisted with that required extra help. And the reserves contribute a lot of that extra help there. So going on some response times here. This is the first time I personally have ever had to look at this and actually do the math, because all the programs we have, it doesn't just let us, hey, all the calls in Saugatuck City, give me the response time. Fortunately, they don't do that. So I went through and randomly picked 100 out of the 1,127, and I figured out what our average response times were. So average response time from the time that a caller calls dispatch and dispatch starts entering something in to the time that the officer arrived on scene is 15 minutes. Now, from the time that the officer is actually dispatched by central dispatch to the time of arrival is 9 minutes. Little caveat there. These are typically non-emergent calls. Some of those within that, I'm sure, were emergencies. So emergencies are when dispatch will tone out, say, for instance, when shots fired over here at Coral Gables. That's an emergency. That particular call I have wrote down here on my side notes. We had an officer on scene from the time of the call to the time of being on scene within 4 minutes and 9 seconds. We had B&E over here is it Corey Creations? That was another one that stuck out in my head. That was an emergency call. Officer on scene from the time of call, which Those ones are kind of obvious. I think that came through a alarm company. The way alarm companies work, the company actually has to call us after they get the alarm, so there's already a delay with that. So from the time we got the call dispatch, officer on scene, 5 minutes and 55 seconds. From the time the officer was actually dispatched, though, 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Another one that we had was a disorderly over here at the New Holland Brewery. Intoxicated individual over there. Time of call 15:11, and we had an officer out there by 15:14, so within 3 minutes. So pretty good response time when the actual emergencies are going on. And again, those are just 3 calls that I can remember outside of my head this afternoon going, what are 3 emergencies that we had down here that I could remember? So those were 3 that I wanted to highlight that shows that we are getting officers on scene in a pretty quick manner, so.
Sergeant, if I may?
Yes, yes, sir.
So thank you, that's good to hear that the high priority calls and get responding, but everybody likes to hear that. What are some of the examples of calls though that kind of fall back in like low priority that would drag out past the 15?
Okay, so if you look on the next 2 pages, these are all different types of calls throughout the year that deputies handle over here in the city. So let's look here, something that may not have. Be a high priority, a fireworks call. There's one throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
Fireworks are legal, obviously within certain time periods, but that's not gonna be typically a high priority, because usually by the time we get around. They're not gonna be going on anymore. A found property, that's a low priority call.
Sergeant,
Yes, ma'am.
what are the general assist that there were 370?
Yeah, so those are gonna be typically. The lockups that the guys do at nighttime, like they lock the bathrooms up, they lock the beach up. Or it could also be a patron needs a ride home. We'll pull a number for a general assist for that. Little things like that. But most of those are gonna be lockups. So most of these months that have the 29, 27, 26, those are just the nightly lockups.
I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for doing this, the dispatch time. That's wonderful. What trips the trigger for the fire department to come out to?
I guess it would vary on what the call actually is and. So any obviously medical, Saugatuck first responders would come down. What else would trip them to come down here? Anything that's, I guess, anything that we're related to as far as them being automatic call, obviously a fire. Any medical, any high priority medical. I'm not 100% sure how Saugatuck Fire is. Mr. Fox could probably expound on that a little bit more as far as if it's only priority 1 medicals they respond to, or if they come up to say a priority 3 medical. Priority 1 medical would be a cardiac situation. I know they respond to all those, so. I'm not 100% sure if they respond to all medicals or just, again, the higher priority ones.
Thank you.
Car accident would be another one where there could be potential injuries. Or somebody might need extricated, might not be injured, but maybe to get amputated out of the vehicle. Stuff like that.
Thanks.
I will say one other thing, again, the next big property inspections, you'll see that there's a lot of them. Those are the ones that we stop in and say, hey, we're gonna be gone for the year. We have deputies go out and do property inspections or reserves again, once a week, do property inspections as well, so. There's that one, the parking violations, we all know the parking violations in town here in the summertime. And then in the wintertime, the only ones we ever deal with in the wintertime are the people who don't park on the right side of the road and it's nice, so. I think those are like the really big ones that I have seen. The rest of them are, the alarm calls, general, the accidents are actually vehicle accidents. And this is, again, these are for the 4 the calls within the city are all calls that were taken by the sheriff's office within the city. The traffic stops part, those are traffic stops made by the 4 deputies that the city contracts. And same for the school contacts, those are contacts that those 4 deputies are documenting on their daily reports, so. That is really all I have. I wasn't real sure what you guys are all expecting, so I am open to answer questions, though. Yes, sir.
Yes, thanks, Sergeant Haas. Appreciate you being here this evening. This is great. I really appreciate this. Couple questions. One is, do the stats include the Marine unit?
Yeah, so the boat, well, not all of them.
Okay,
So the only, if you look on there, there's a boating, there is a line there for boating. Those are when those guys are pulling complaint numbers is all, so it doesn't
Okay.
count for
they're
all their
stopping.
interactions that they have with boaters and stuff out there. That is
Okay.
something I can very easily get though.
Okay. Yeah, I just more curious, just to understand exactly what they're, how many folks are engaging with when they're on the water.
I know that stat is a very easy one to get.
Thank
so.
you. Thank
I
you.
will get that one for you for the next meeting. How about that?
Perfect. I do want to say, I've noticed that the officers, particularly I've seen Nick Haskell several times, walking around, I'll stop and talk with them, and I really appreciate the fact that you're getting the officers out of the cars and walking in town. There's great memories here of, Sergeant, can't remember his name, retired Michigan State Police officer. You may remember him, he used to walk around in shorts with white socks up to his knees, but he would walk around. I mean, everybody knew him. And it's that kind of activity that I think really helps people feel as though they know the officers, which is something you and I have talked about too. There's a perception that we have and no offense intended, but people literally call you rent-a-cops. And I correct them because they say, look, they're not rent-a-cops. They have officers they assign to the beat here that are here regularly. Introduce yourselves when you see the officers. Every time I've stopped and talked with someone, they've been more than happy to kind of explain and what's going on and talk with them. So again, I'd like to continue that discussion to figure out how can we get to know the officers better. I hosted an event back in 23, which was well attended. The sheriff was here, under sheriff, and the deputies were here as well. And I'd like to see more of that because I think there is an opportunity to increase that understanding that the department makes an effort to assign specific officers here for regular shifts. So they get to know the community. And then by walking around, that's just another indication that there's an effort being made. So I'd like to have further conversations about that. And then also, I did a ride along with Tucker, Deputy Hoover, just after he started here. And that was an interesting experience. I got to walk around town and we did a couple of noise calls for short-term rentals. Interesting enough, when we got there, it couldn't have been more quiet. So,
Yeah.
right. But I'm gonna definitely do that again this summer. Do I go through you or can I? Okay.
Me.
Yeah, and
I know the mayor, she also would like to do the same thing. I'm just waiting for the summer months to
Yeah.
start kind of ramping things up a little bit, because right in this time of year, it's not gonna be real exciting.
it definitely gives you a different look at the community for sure. I learned a lot of things when I went around with the officers. I saw all the reserve deputies too. It was a great experience. I would encourage any council member that has not done it to do.
Yeah, sign me up. Yeah, do I get a little badge too?
Thank
Yeah, I'd
you.
like to do that.
Yeah,
Sergeant, I would echo what Council Member Gardner said. Just yesterday morning, I believe it was Deputy Hoover. It must have been at the end of his shift. It was early Sunday morning, but, instead of being in his warm patrol car, he was actually out walking the downtown area and engaging with early morning dog walkers. And so I was very pleased to see that, that your team is actually getting out and to Councilman Gardner's point, actually engaging with folks outside their vehicle. I think that's great. And I guess I don't want to put you on the spot, but anything you're hearing from your team on anything that we as a council could be doing to make your team's job a little bit easier? Is there a crosswalk or an intersection, a place where one of our radar speed signs should maybe be redeployed? Anything that comes to mind that we could action to make your team's job?
So if someone does have an issue, I can communicate with the city manager and we get issue resolved pretty quickly.
Great.
If there is anything, so yeah, we've been working pretty good. If something does come up, it gets resolved pretty quick.
Great. Thank you.
Anything else? Thanks so much. We really appreciate
I'll
it.
make one note on Councilman Gardner's comment about meeting the deputies. The city manager and I have talked about that. We talked about it last fall actually, and we thought with it coming into the more quiet time of the year, we're gonna wait till the spring and do another thing like what we did.
great. Excellent. I'd love to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So.
Whatever I can do to help do that. Appreciate it.
Any other questions at all?
Thank
Oh,
you.
great, thanks.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Thanks, Sarge.
Yeah.
Jen.
All right, that takes us to Commissioner Lovers. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. How's everybody doing?
Good evening.
Good.
Yeah.
First thing I wanted to echo what Ryan said. I saw that in the Sentinel about Oval Beach. That's really neat to have number 24 out of the whole country rated a triple. That's wonderful for tourism and just a lot of fronts. You know, it's just a great thing. Couple smaller notes. We got notified on. I don't know if you guys have individual recycling or research recovery, but there would be a couple countywide events coming up. So this is hazardous waste collection. So that's like paint, batteries, regular scrap metal, some trash. I don't know if they do appliances or not, but anyway, closest one is Fenville City parking lot, June 14, 2025. So that's a countywide. All you need is your driver's license to prove that you live in the county, and you may dispose of all that stuff at your will.
The city hall in
Benville City
Fenville?
Hall. Benville City Hall. Yep. And then there's also a tire collection event, multiple of them, but closest one is in Casco Township. Casco Township Transfer Station. August 16th. So if anybody has any tires they want to dispose of, it's a wonderful chance to, not, I'm not sure, and people in the city here may not, but on the outskirts, you never know. So,
And that's, these are both for anybody from Allegan County.
correct. Anybody in the county. So it doesn't matter where you are from. So, and then, on a more local note here, I had a discussion, I was talking to Greg last time I was here, with Becky at Interurban. And she was telling me about there's a gap between here and Lake Town to get, so people can get to the Max buses in Holland. And then as we go south to South Haven. And I know from talking to the people in Casco that they're working on sending a bus down there to the Casco Meyer or Walmart or what have you. But I will be working with her to facilitate, because she has to work with Lake Town to potentially they have to do a millage to pay for that part of the route. And then, but also on that front, I know, Greg can attest to that there may be funding challenges related to not just things happening in DC, let's say, just say it nicely, but some state issues also coming down the pipe. So all this is budget related and logistics related, but I will be working with her to try to get the ball rolling to try to expand that in that respect. And then I don't know if I didn't mention already, I'll mention it again. As a county commissioner, we decided to change our meeting schedule. So we used to do a 9 o'clock meeting, which is like a planning session where we would discuss and talk about things. And then 1 o'clock, we'd meet again after lunch and actually have another meeting to act on them. But we changed that to one meeting at 9 o'clock where we start. And then just similar to what you guys do, talk and discuss and then act on what we need to, and then go on to the next thing. But if we're done by noon, we're done by noon. And so that being said, what I'm trying to say is if you or somebody else is trying to go and they go at 1 o'clock, there may be a sign on the door that says the meeting is over with. So, but there's still 2 public comment periods, one at the beginning, one at the end, but the time and the length may vary depending on the meeting. So
What day of the month are those meetings?
the second and fourth Thursdays.
Second and fourth.
So this Thursday is the next one. So. But trying to get that word out so if anybody so people aren't surprised when they show up at 1 o'clock and, oh, where is everybody? Well, the meeting's over with. So, that's all I have. So.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Commissioner Lubbers.
All right, that takes us to the public comment on agenda items only. Anybody in the room wish to make a public comment? Anyone online wish to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that and move to the consent agenda, which is on page 3 of our packet.
Mayor,
Yes,
I'll go ahead and make a motion to to approve our consent agenda on, for our meeting on February 24th, 2025.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Part of the consent agenda is some appointments, and we have two of our proposed appointees here, Leah and Kate. So welcome, great to have you here. I wanted to make a quick comment. We're kind of reconstituting our compensation committee, our commission, which has sort of gone by the wayside. And we may never use them, but their purpose is if council wishes to have its own compensation reviewed, we would ask the compensation committee to do that. So we're appointing three people, Mark Becken, Diana Decker, and Kate is going to join that. I told all three of them that, you know, they may well not be called into action, but at least we have that committee in place at, you know, should we ever need them or a future council need them. So I didn't know we had a compensation committee, so commission.
Does that mean we can raise our wages?
We could, if this council decides that we want to raise, that's who we would ask to work on that on our behalf. So, so any other discussion or questions?
Yeah, two items, actually three. So that last comment about the compensation commission, I think that's in the charter, right?
It is in,
Yes,
yeah.
the charter driven. So this council gets compensated $35 per meeting, which was set back in 1984. So
Mhm.
if you want to talk about fiscal responsibility, we have kept that down. I think the mayor gets an additional $150 a year for that service. So I think we'd have to open up a city charter commission in order to raise our rates. So anyway, just a little bit of history on that. Board and commission appointments. I know Leah personally, I'm looking forward to serving with her on the Historic District Commission. I have asked in the past that if there's a board and commission appointment that we have not discussed at the workshop, that's on a regular agenda item for us to have discussion as opposed to the consent agenda. Also to back up to item D, the donor for the Village Square. I believe we have been told that the donor is chosen to remain anonymous. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm not sure how to ask this question other than to ask it flatly, is how do we know there's not a conflict of interest with someone within the city on anonymous donors of this magnitude? I think about the airport property as well. I'm not saying there's anything suspicious about it, but since we put a new ethics policy into place or an updated ethics policy, how do we ensure that there's not someone donating money to the city that may have a business interest or maybe, and again, we don't have a donor policy to kind of guide us on this. So I just asked that question. I'm not suspecting anything at all, but I think as we look more for more transparency, that could very well be a question that may come up. And it actually has come up with me with that donation. So I'm just putting it out there.
Any other questions? All right, this is a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
And Peterson.
Yes.
Okay. Takes us to staff reports. We had an opportunity to hear from the city manager and take questions, so I'm assuming we're good there. Any questions about the treasurer's report? Clerk's report? Planning and zoning? DPW? We've heard from our sheriff. So we did that. Engineer report? Right, takes us to boards, commissions, and committees. Fire District Administration Board.
Thank you. Dan Fox, Council's representative to the Administrative Board of the Township, Saugatuck Township Fire District. This report concerns our January 17th meeting for your calendars. If you choose, the next full meeting of the board is the 17th of, which I think, that's St. Patrick's Day, right? Because we're going to have Green Beer.
Yep.
So anyway, this will bring you up to speed, and actually a little more with this first picture, which obviously took place after the January statistics. That truck was northbound on 196 and it was windy like it is today. And got just to the Kalamazoo River Bridge. The nature of that crossing is such that winds at whatever speed are amplified because they're channeled by the shore, the flat surface of the ice or the water or whatever. And that driver said he started and all of a sudden the trailer just went. And bringing the trailer back, he ended up not doing such a good job with the tractor. They thought they were going to have to get a helicopter out there to get the guy out of the truck, but they didn't. And he was all right. Yep.
Yeah, just a quick question. I drove southbound on I-196 a couple weeks ago and I noticed that, I don't know if it was maybe at the recommendation of Sagatuck Township Fire District, there's signs that have been put up,
New flashing signs.
yeah, warning of the risk that you're talking about. So
I don't, I mean, I think you do what you can, but how many times you've seen a high winds on bridge warning and did you
Sure.
slow down? No, you
Yeah.
just kept going.
Yeah.
I'll see for myself. It's not going to blow this car over. Well, it blew that truck over. So, and took out all the yellow stuff or what's left of the warning barrels that were in place from the last accident at exactly the same spot. So new barrels, whatever. Okay, we can look at the first one, Sarah. Thank you. Related to that, before we get into the other statistics and whatnot, I thought you'd be interested, not just in the incident increase, which is historic to say the least, but the response resources involved out on the highway. So over the year, 6 partial, 1 full closure, 20 hours for I-196 responses, 51 total personnel, 28 total apparatus responses, trucks and so forth. And majority of those are 1 to 2 hours in length. Some go up to 6 hours in length. And it's why, the extent of this stuff is why we try so hard to claw back because that's expense. All of that is expensive, the time, the equipment, so forth. Try and claw back as much as we can with cost recovery to varying levels of success. Better more recently, but it's up and down. Sometimes you're dealing with out-of-state trucking companies or insurance companies that just tell you to pound sand, and that's that. And we are limited in how much legal fees we're willing to absorb to chase after. So we do what we can. Chief's very good at it, and his people are very good at it. Okay, Sarah. Oddly, sort of almost tongue in cheek, this is a note we got from the Department of Transportation fella, Troy Landis. You probably know who he is, right? Yeah. Telling us how much he appreciated the TMA truck, the truck that can absorb collisions if errant drivers miss it. And asking if we'd be willing to show his people so that he can make a recommendation. This should be going the other way. I mean, it's literally, we should be the ones writing him and thanking him for getting their truck out to protect emergency service people on the roadsides, but they don't do that. And if you try and get them out there, sometimes you can't even get them out there. We reviewed an incident during one of the bad storms here this winter. We couldn't get them out to Salt, just right by the 196 bridge at 41. We had a fire truck that couldn't get up that angle's only about like that and couldn't get up because it was solid ice that happened in a matter of half an hour or whatever. Semi came off that exit, which perpendicular hits Blue Star perpendicular. And they've got video from the fire truck, which is now facing toward the city. And you watch this semi come and you see the brakes go on and he just goes all the way across. Anybody been coming? And, fortunately, it's not quite lined up. I thought, based on what I was seeing, I thought it was going to go head in right into the Shell station, knock over a couple of pumps, and we'd have had, movie scene. But
Dan, to this point, is there a mechanism where first responders are able to feed this kind of information into MDOT? Because it seems like, we have winter every year, and it seems like this particular area, has a preponderance of accidents. And you would think if you were running MDOT, you would, just like if you had a high crime area, you would devote extra resources to deal with that situation. Are the first responders able to impress upon MDOT?
They know.
That this is such a problem area?
They
do.
know where all these things take place. That's it, it is, I mean, and their responsibility is as much, I think, probably as much engineering stuff to make
Okay.
sure the highway is safely engineered. But in terms of responding to issues as they happen, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious.
And they
Yeah.
tend to come from wherever the hell they're coming from. So in the case of that needing to get salted out here, when they made the call, and they said, we'll get out there, but it's going to take us 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it just seems strange to me that, our communities, when that shuts down, the traffic diverts through our communities, creating a bigger safety issue for us locally and for you as well. And it just seems odd that they haven't, just like if you had a high crime area, that it's not getting more attention, something, in terms of landscaping to stop blowing snow. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm not a traffic engineer by any stretch of the imagination, but it just seems odd that just, it's kind of Groundhog's Day all the time with, and I know the weather's changing, but it just seems strange
And
that,
to piggyback on that, and also in the summer, I mean, we have quite a few times where we have traffic routed through Blue Star during July and middle of summer. And it's certainly not as often as the winter do we have accidents. But I'm wondering, like you're saying, is there something with the road or the speed limit or?
on the diversions, there are protocols that require state police ordering the diversion. I mean, the fire district can't do it. I don't think you guys can do it. Maybe you can.
It's a state.
No, we didn't. Somebody had.
Just had a big meeting about
Oh.
that's how we're working it here now, so.
I think the question that Councilmember Dean's asking is, it seems to be increasing in scope and increasing in frequency. My memories of this is that there had been accidents on that bridge for years, but not nearly to the extent we're seeing them now. So whether amount of traffic going through there, I mean, that's kind of where I think that's where the question is coming from, seems to be increasing.
Well, in response to I'm pretty sure, not positive, but I'm pretty sure those flashing signs got there courtesy MDOT. But we don't do that. That is about the only people I could think of who would do that. Not the county, because it's interstate highway. So, and I'm sure to your point, they'll say, well, those signs cost,
yeah.
pick a
Right.
number.
Yeah.
We're investing more resources for the safety, da, 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 da.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's technology. I mean, now, they're better at predicting weather events. They now have the chemical that can pre-treat particularly dangerous corners, intersections, what have you. It just seems strange that if I was MDOT looking, and I work for the state, but I mean, if I was MDOT, I'd be looking, and maybe this isn't a top priority in terms of the number of accidents, but to us, I think here, it seems like it's, every time there's a snowstorm, there's a jackknife semi right at the bridge every time,
Right.
so it's just, it's just an observation. I don't know, once again, if there's something that we as a council, working with our tri-community partners can do to say, hey, we've noticed this is happening time and time again. It creates disruption to our residents and actually creates a public safety issue because invariably the traffic diverts through our towns. So I mean, I'm just wondering if there's something that we can do collectively to put more attention on this section of highway.
Or sat around a little bit. Is there anything that the fire department can think of that can be done that we can help support and take the message up to MDOT?
Yes.
To try and,
Well,
drive some changes because.
to our knowledge, that
All of us putting our voices together might make a difference.
the acquisition of that TMA truck, which got a lot of publicity locally and whatever, and certainly within the fire first response community, including MDOT and you guys, as the terrific resource it is. 10 years ago, I think we're the only ones in the state or the second ones in the state to have that resource. So, and it's there not because we're good guys or we got a lot of money. It's there because the people, the first responders deserve it. I mean, their lives are on the line. I mean, we saw it on that video where the guys are running down into the weeds to get out of the way of a spinning box truck that, so there's the other piece, and you probably have better perspective on it than I do, and it's anecdotal for me, I guess. In terms of the increase in these kinds of things, I maintain that that cell phone and people's attention to the cell phone, which did not exist 10 years ago and does exist now. And I mean, every time you pass somebody in the highway, just glance over at the guy who's doing this, drive 75 miles an hour, doing this, or looking up at the one they got up here, whatever. That's how you get like that first scene. That's the kind of thing that happens. I mean, all of a sudden, oh my God, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. And they won't tell you. I mean, you can tell that the phone was on, but you can't tell if they were watching it or what.
This is why it's so interesting to me is that, MDOT had a eureka moment when they saw your attenuator truck. Yet, that's just part of what you guys do. They have people on the highways every single day. And yet they're like, oh, eureka, look at this. This would make our people safer. So that's why I'm exploring this potential disconnect.
Well, and they should know it too. I mean, the contractors have these. And there are private companies who only provide those, just like they're the guys that put out put out the cones, safety companies, whatever the hell they're called. So they know this technology existed. Why they don't, I don't know.
I spoke to Chief Janik about that section of road just last week before.
Okay.
Of course, you mentioned the fact that, you got the winds that are funneled through there. You got the moisture coming up from the Kalamazoo River. It's a recipe, when the temperature drops, it's a recipe for black ice.
Sure.
He also mentioned that he wasn't sure, but he thought there might be a little bit of a dip going into that bridge, which is when the vehicles hit the dip and it unloads the weight off of the vehicles as the wind, just when the winds catch them. And if that is true, and I don't know that it is, and I don't think he was, stating it as fact, he just said that may be one of the things that's going on there, but those I think would be the type of things that we all got together and said, hey, you got a problem with the road here, maybe we could drive some change, into the situation, because it is getting worse, there's no doubt about it.
Scott Sullivan's writing this article right now. So get in there. Aren't you, Scott? If he's awake. Okay, well, should we move on or no? Next one, please, Sarah. Okay, so these are the first month's worth of incidents. That 106 is a new record. I think there's another slide on that. And the other one I draw your attention to is the 100%, which I mentioned earlier, the 100% increase in the 196 related accidents, motor vehicle accidents, 196 and others.
That's year over year or?
No,
That's
that
just
was
the
the
month.
month. I may have misspoken earlier. Those were monthly numbers earlier. Next one, Sarah. Here are our response times, and in terms of your question or Sergeant Haas's question about the responses from the fire district, we're dispatched by Allegan County Dispatch. So, and I've said this before from here, don't ever call the fire department here and say, come to my house. Call 911. That's how it gets into the system. They operate very quickly and smoothly and whatever. And all of the things get logged properly and accounted for properly. So to my understanding, I could be wrong on this, but we don't have, the fire district doesn't have an option of not responding. We get dispatched, we go. Sometimes that's, in emergency situations or mutual aid to Casco or to Grasscap or to Hamilton or whatever. You don't debate that, you go. So, and the numbers are, as you see there, about 7 minutes, a little under 7 minutes starting, which is up a little bit from last year if it stays there, but all of those are pretty reasonable times. My view, yes.
Do you have in-house doing this?
Yes,
All these graphics and
Yes.
everything? Wow.
yes. Eric Kirchner. You know Eric?
Yeah.
Eric does these.
Wow.
He's amazing, has command of this stuff and the graphics. The only thing I'm trying to get to work with Eric on, if he watches me, I don't think he does, is there's one chart that has I don't know, some number that's an annual number for 3 years, and it's shown backwards. So the most current year is the one on the left. The most current year is supposed to be, things go from left to right unless you're Chinese, so, but whatever. A small criticism of an otherwise outstanding individual and resource. Next one, please. In fact, there's so much more. Every month I try and pick out a couple of things that are a little different, so, because it can go on forever. These are the response times from Life Ambulance. You see the Saugatuck one, Saugatuck North one is higher. Remember too, this data is from before the ambulance was relocated to the fire district, to the fire station. If you've driven by there, you've probably seen it from whatever it is, 2 o'clock to whatever it is at night, every day, and it's there now. So those numbers will likely come down. Next one. Incidents by area. So this is by fire district area. So Saugatuck North and Saugatuck South, the 2 blue bars, almost identical. Total those 2 up for what we experienced with Douglas, the township, so on.
Township versus a percentage and as a total is so much higher than the other districts or areas, I should say.
It's a bigger area, more people.
Okay.
Bigger area, more people is all I can think. I mean, I don't know any other reason. Yes, sir.
Would Lake Michigan be the marine?
Say it again?
response? I said, would the Lake Michigan be the marine response? If you had to dispatch the boat?
If we dispatch our fireboat,
Yeah, is that what Lake Michigan is on your chart?
The line item.
It's zeros
Yeah.
from January. which
yeah,
is-
if there was a Lake Michigan response, there'd be a response out
Thank
there.
you.
Yeah. Next one, please. Again, in terms of things we watch, this one got out of control a few years back, and we're alert to it because it appears to be about ready to get out of control again. These are calls to Douglas Cove, the nursing facility on the south side of Douglas. The gray bar is January's bar, which is matching or a little better than the highest monthly total from the prior years. And it's a thorny thing. I mean, obviously they're a member of the community and they have a right to expect emergency services. However, some of those calls, we can break this down at some point. Some of those calls are simply a patient has fallen. Your care facility, if your patients fall, pick them up. You know, we dispatch a truck and 2 guys, EMS guys, you know, that could be responding someplace else to something else. It's starting to err on the side of a little more than is appropriate to the situation. I know the people out there, I know them well, and they're a good resource and they work hard. And a person who falls down generally needs 1 person on each side to help them up. They've even got hydraulic things out there to get people out of beds and stuff. So, okay, so anyway, to the point earlier of all the data we get, it's one of the things we're watching. From the fire board discussions items, a couple more. First one is something I had never heard of called a Knox key box. These are key control boxes that are 10 of them that are in 10 of the trucks that allow emergency service to immediately gain access to facilities that have this service. I thought there'd be like 10. There's a bunch of them, and it avoids, you know, pickaxes on doors and breaking windows and stuff like that. And which is why, and a lot of, I guess I'm told that a lot of like hotels or commercial want them because there's times where there's nobody there and the last thing they want is, you know, smoke generator goes off and we come. So anyway, that technology being what it is, those are being upgraded now with Wi-Fi capable access and what have you. So we approved $14,000 to replace the existing obsolete units. And the second one, a bigger deal, we approved the acquisition of a Ram truck that looks like that one. A chassis with a refurbished, meaning used, but completely refurbished box, ambulance box on the back body, for a total of not to exceed $264,000 to replace the second of the two remaining Ford Explorers that's well past its useful life at over 10 years now. This truck will become it's not going to be white, by the way. That's just a picture from the supplier. Will be the first out the door EMS vehicle once it's in place sometime this summer, the estimate.
Great.
Does 264, does that include the wrap or the
Yeah, because I forget what the actual number for the
I know
cost of
those
the
are
equipment
expensive,
is,
yeah.
but I want to say there's like $20,000 of equipment wrap, so on and so forth.
Okay,
The truck will be red,
right.
so it doesn't have to be wrapped. So the wrap would be or just like it is on the other
Decal.
unit where it's like the lower portion of the back of the truck, leave the rest of it white, and it works pretty nice.
Right.
And last time we got that for free. Don't want to plan on that, but
Thanks, Dan.
sorry to
Questions?
take so long. I didn't intend to. So. Anything else? No?
Thank you,
Thanks.
Dan.
Thank you.
Dan.
Appreciate it.
Gregory, Interurban Board.
Yes, our ridership is up. It seems like I say that every meeting. Our January increased by 335 people compared to last year. This time we carried a total of 3,551 riders for the month of January. We're still doing the Holland Weekly service, the two-way Holland service, and of course, our fast food or food orders. You can always give us a call after you call your favorite restaurant, put your order in, and the bus will bring it to you for just a couple dollars. Also, we've got two so far contractors for our new addition, and so we're going forward with that. Should be breaking ground this spring for that. That's been a long time coming. I keep talking about that, but it's finally coming into fruition. Our audit, 2024 audit, the preliminary audit has already been emailed. We reviewed, approved. We'll have the final audit to review and approve at next month's meeting in March. We have a couple of things real quick. We've added one of our drivers, Brian Gudith, is a graduate of Hope College with a business management degree and certified management accountant, and he's helping with accounting duties. So that's a great thing to have, a resource. So he'll be both a driver and then spending a couple hours helping us in accounting. So we're happy about that. And then also we've talked about that we're meeting with Fenville right now about offering service in Fenville. We're still working on that. It's not everything is approved, but there's talk about having as Fenville is redoing a park. They've got a lot of money going into redoing some parks downtown there. They'll also be adding a bus stop for this service. So people will pick up at this designated bus stop when they call on demand for Fenville. So that's the idea. And it looks like I'm feeling pretty good about that we're going to go forward with that. We talked about having a budget meeting because as Brad Lubers was talking about, we're getting cuts on some of our funding. So I had a great meeting with Becky and Taru, our president Taru. And we've made adjustments to revise our income to 1,356,000 and our expenses to 1,324,000. So we approved that budget at our last meeting, that budget adjustment. So we should be fine for the rest of the year.
Excellent. Thanks. Any questions for Gregory? All right, Cal Lake Sewer and Water Authority. I know they had a meeting today. You sent the packet around. Did you go to the meeting? Great.
Just a few things that were mentioned that I thought I'd just call out. New, very expensive vacuum truck is now in operation. I think they spent about $750,000 on it, and they all seem pretty excited about having that, and I think it's going to help make things more reliable and maybe cut down some of the expenses of having to, contract out some of the work. I know Barry mentioned in his last report that there might be some issues with the new generators that were installed, and there are. They have reported several what should be warranty related issues of fluids leaking out of I think all of them. some concerns there, so much so that, I think they've not only reported them, but they've notified, the legal, just to kind of formally keep track of things. These are very expensive units and they want to make sure, obviously, that everything's done right. And I'm not sure if there's systemic issues with the manufacturing or whatever that they've run into. But anyway, so ongoing there. Just completed inspection of the reservoir up in the hill. Unfortunately, there were no major issues. These inspections are required by the state every 5 to 8 years. Alternating inspections require actually a diver to go into the tank. This year, they used an ROV, which helps keep costs down. Next inspection, however, will be much more intensive. And, as part of that, they actually have to, when they put a diver in there, they actually have to drain down the tank, close it off so the diver doesn't end up sucked into the pipes. And you get about 2 weeks where the reservoir is offline. This is actually an issue, left. It's actually an issue for the fire department. What happens is without the reservoir, which acts as a natural pressure buffer, the pumps are just feeding directly into the mains and they get pressure spikes. And when the fire department fills their trucks or whatever, they start getting water hammering. Last time around, they ended up getting 5, I think he said 5 water main breaks just in that 2-week period. So they're gonna, ask the fire department, obviously, to limit their activity to emergencies only. April hydrant flow testing will take place this year. I guess they're gonna be doing it to get ISO compliance as well, which is what I didn't notice. Which is used actually to help guide the insurance premiums for municipalities. So it's really important that they get that done. And I think those are just pretty much the highlights that I thought I'd call out.
Great. Thanks,
So-
Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
We have something for Cal Lake Harbor Authority.
We do. We have a letter that went out, more or less requesting that we get on the board and have a meeting. Last time they had a quorum was in April. And so hopefully we'll get something planned in March that we can have a definite meeting and move forward with any of the suggestions. As Dick said, we're looking at the water level.
Mhm.
And if that continues the way it's going, then we could find some issues that we would need to prepare for ahead of time, not just have it sneak up on us. So hopefully a meeting in March,
Great.
hopefully a quorum in March.
Russ?
Yeah, just a question for the Harbor Authority. I think the lights that were going to be installed on Blue Star Bridge were under the auspices of that group. We have not heard any information on that particular installation for a number of months. So I just put that out there.
I'll find out.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. The zoning board of appeals hasn't met. Historic District Commission, Russ?
Yeah, thank you. Our next meeting is Thursday, March 6th at 6 PM. So we're welcoming our new commissioner, Leah Root. Since I was not able to give my update about the February 6th meeting at the last regular council meeting, I'll give a quick update. We had 4 items that we discussed and took action on. The first was for 40 Butler Street, which is actually better known as the Singapore Yacht Club. They have proposed replacing the fence around the pool. That was approved. A lot of discussion around the fence itself, but ultimately was approved by the commission. 115 Butler, which is directly across the street from City Hall. There's a window that has deteriorated to the point where the owner wants to replace the window due to leaks. That was approved. We had an extended conversation about an item we thought would go pretty quick, and that's Glicks. So Glicks has asked for a replacement of their front doors. So we had a long discussion about the current doors, and it's the kind of thing where when you're on a commission, if you're just walking around town, you don't notice these things, but on a commission, planning commission, historic district commission, whatever, you begin to see the community a little bit differently. And the doors at Glicks actually were there from Bob Oosting, that used to be his display area, as well as he had his warehouse in the back. And we had a lot of discussion where those doors came from and the streetscape that it presents and so forth. And they wanted to replace it with some different doors, which we ultimately ended up approving. But it was a long discussion about just kind of what the streetscape of downtown Sagatuck looks like and how some of the items that we see in some of the doorways are there's a lot of, not by design, but there's a lot of eclectic things going on. So it was just kind of a very interesting discussion. Our last item, which we thought would be the most discussion, but turned out to be pretty quick, was 340 Water, also known as Mermaid. That building is going to be undergoing a pretty extensive exterior renovation. And the Historic District Commission approved the plans. Ultimately, they have to go to planning for some additional discussion, but the Historic District Commission did approve it. The one item that actually was kind of interesting that came up was the mural that's on the north side of the building. That has become an Instagram-worthy art, I guess is probably
Photo
lack of a
op.
better term, right? And it was very interesting because the Historic District Commission has no purview over that, but it was interesting because there's some discussion about what actually is going to happen with that, and comment was made that that has become very popular. As a matter of fact, it's even, the city manager was mentioned that that's a highlight for some of the reports that the city manager makes. So anyway, word's out there that that's something that's very important to this community for our visitors as well as our residents. So that was probably the most topic. That's probably the biggest conversation we had was about that mural. So anyway, that was ultimately approved.
Great, thanks, Russ.
You're welcome.
Planning Commission, Joe.
Yeah, I think, for the last few council meetings, I've mentioned that we've been in deep discussions around allowing, accessory dwelling structures to be added on to, bed and breakfast, specifically here in R4. We did finish our discussions, and we'll be presenting a recommendation, well, as soon as we can get scheduled into one of our workshops to essentially allow up to 2 accessory structures, through a licensed bed and breakfast, not to exceed 3 rooms per structure. And also not to exceed 50% of the main building's overall capacity, so that 6 number could come down. And that'll be coming to council for discussions. It was pretty much unanimous, not pretty much, it was a unanimous recommendation of planning. So I think all the members feel pretty strongly that it should be moved forward. How we got to the 2 versus 1 versus 3.
People can watch the video.
Right?
There was a lot of discussion. Some of it came from the fact that we have somebody in town who just happens to fit into that profile, who was asking for the change, but in general, planning thinks it's a good start, and we can always tune it if we need to down the road. And
Great,
that's it.
thanks. PPW Lauren is not here. They meet tomorrow?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Tri-community non-motorized trail.
Nothing to report tonight.
Russ or Joe, Water System Operations Contract Advisory Committee, or Ryan?
Still in process.
Yeah, the legal counsels and managers were continuing to work on the red lines based on the feedback from our committee members. And so we're getting into the nitty gritty of, every line. So actually, I just emailed Joe and Russ to kind of circle back at the end of the week for some follow-up questions. So, yep.
Great.
But we're working on it. Yep. Good progress. So.
And then Wildlife Management Committee.
Next meeting, March 5th at 6 p.m. We'll look over the survey results from the tri-community on what we should be doing about the deer problem. It is likely we will start discussing a call of some type. And the first action item is for the committee to look at the 3 communities' ordinances around discharging archery equipment or weapons in those communities. I believe we're going to have Douglas Police there, and I believe Sergeant Haas, you've been tapped as well to participate as well for us, so thank you.
Russ?
Yeah, just a quick question. Have there been an increase, or have there been any incidents with deer, car accidents within the city limits with the number of deer that we've seen? I didn't see it on your report, and I thought to ask when you made your, okay. Because I see on Holland Street near where I live, a lot of cars stopping for deer that are crossing across Holland, going up the hill towards Upper Spear, pretty much daily. So I'm surprised someone hasn't hit a deer yet.
The owner of Satya Yoga just replaced their car. They hit a deer on Blue Star Highway. I think that was between M89 and, going through there, and she had a deer. And I just wanted to ask real quick if everybody got a chance to see that picture last week on social media of the, what, 6 or 7 deer that were crossing the river here, the frozen river.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
I didn't see it.
Uh-huh.
That-
And I'm seeing lots of groups of deer that folks are sharing on social media. People are reporting 12 to 14 in a group in their yard. And then last week during the show on Saugatuck on Sunday, we had a visitor walk down Butler Street during the morning show
Oh, yeah.
that we gave a shout out to when he walked by. So there's definitely an increase. Other than, outside of Saugatuck, in the city limits, I haven't heard of a lot of people or anyone that's really hit one. I think everybody's very mindful and very careful around here, especially us that live here, when we're driving through. So hopefully.
I saw 16 cross Campbell from Douglas to Saugatuck.
16.
16. It
Wow.
was a lot of deer. Great. That takes us to item 11, approval of accounts payable. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Madam Mayor, to pay the accounts payable of $1,163,443.11.
Second.
To roll, any questions before we vote?
No, go ahead.
Oh, just curious about the barricade. What was that? To give them a break, and that's a barricade. Is that something that we purchased or?
Yeah, I think there were two barricades, but I can ask Scott if it was just replacement or what the purpose of the barricades. was
Okay,
for.
I was just
can follow
curious.
up with you on that, yeah.
And Russ, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a comment that most of the costs in the accounts payable are pass-throughs for tax collections.
Yep. All right, it's a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
and Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, no public hearings or unfinished business, which takes us to new business, Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area Master Plan update on page 69. And we talked about this at our workshop, but Ryan, you want to do
Yeah,
a quick
just a
recap?
brief recap from your workshop, and the discussion that we had there, that we have some endowment funds that are set aside at the Holland Zealand Area Community Foundation to maintain and make improvements at the Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area. In order to access those funds, we need to have an active master plan, and we're due for that to be updated. And so I've worked with the Land Conservancy on some red line changes. The majority of them are kind of updated evaluation and management recommendations from their walkthrough of the property in the fall. So their recommendations are incorporated. Other than that, we're kind of providing some clarification that the council will essentially continue to be responsible for the property. There's not a separate management board, but that will continue to work with and consult with the Land Conservancy on the property going forward. And then some other just kind of minor cleanup pieces. Otherwise, the plan largely remains intact. So
Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve the updated Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area Master Plan.
Second.
Any comments or further discussion from, yes, Russ?
Yeah, I would just make a comment that I made at the workshop that, we've had, this is 10 years. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years since this was established. So time flies. This is a very, I don't even know how to describe this property other than it's something that we should treasure. And I know a lot of people use it on a regular basis. I think we need to be very careful about anything we do to this property that, in my opinion, less is more out there. There are some issues regarding, it's been reported to me over the years regarding holes that have been buried, barbed wire, some other dangerous things that need to be removed. But I would really entertain a process to really understand how the property is being used before any changes are made. I know there'd be a rush to spend the money on things that maybe not be the best for the property. So I think we just need to do this in a very thoughtful, pragmatic manner in order to make sure that we maintain the pristine property as time goes on. So I'm going to be watching very closely because it's very important to this community. I mean, the fact that Oval Beach continues to get recognized, this plays into that. So we need to be very careful about what we do with it and that we don't spend money in places that are not necessarily going to benefit the property from a use standpoint.
I concur. I mean, I think the reason we continue to get these accolades for Oval Beach is because people consider the entire stretch of pristine beach all the way to the channel to be Oval Beach, you know, so, and that's my point that I made during the workshop, is that we really need to work to make sure that all of our wonderful parks are, in that particular stretch, are well integrated together in a thoughtful way. You know, what works in Oval Beach may not work, to Councilman Gardner's point, might not work in a more kind of rustic, pristine,
Right.
isolated area. So I think, you know, providing something that gives everybody what they want in a beach experience is great. I think we do have a nice mix there, but once again, it's just a lot of open space, which I think people value, which is what's getting us, I think, these awards.
Yeah, I agree. And what's great is we've got money to treat invasives to keep it as pristine, but agree a light touch and, you know, if there are trails that aren't being used and, or going off trail, if we, you know, just keeping people from
Yeah.
trashing the property, literally and figuratively.
Um,
Oh, Gregory,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
also, I just wanted to, agree with Gardner and Dean, Councilmember Dean. But also, we brought up at the workshop, and I just want to remind to keep our staff in mind, the DPW, as they're taking on these more responsibilities. We want to make sure that Scott is prepared and we can help him with any way for any new things to be brought on. They've got a lot going on right now. And so whatever projects we do, we need to be mindful of that.
Yeah, I would also echo that comment, and this is a community that has, you know, volunteered its time over the years, and I think there's a couple of walking groups, Radar Group, I think, is one of them. They should definitely be engaged on this in terms of how they can assist with that issue of maintaining the areas, so we don't have to overburden our DPW staff. Because I'm sure with a little bit of work, you'd be able to get a number of volunteers who've got to be willing to really work on this. I'll volunteer.
As a follow-up to that and discussing about the parks, public works, I don't remember this being on our priority list. And-
No,
And now we've
because
added another priority without taking anything away, which we had all slapped our hands and said we wouldn't do.
actually, I talked about that before our planning meeting. This work is being done in this fiscal year. So it's not on next year's because the plan will be done. So the work, so,
Oh, perfect, thank
yeah,
you.
you,
And
because I
Mhm.
had that same concern.
And that was what I was sort of pressing folks that were visiting us last week during the workshop, that, you know, we have some latitude with this funding. You know, for example, if we need a staffer or a contractor to do invasives in both places, that doesn't necessarily need to fall onto Scott Herbert's team.
Right.
You know, he can utilize some of these funding to get that work done.
Right.
And the folks from the Land Conservancy were very amenable to that. And I think they gave us a lot of assurance that we do have that kind of latitude to do things in a holistic, integrated ways. That goes to Councilman Peterson's point of not overburdening
Yep.
the staff, so.
Okay. This is a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Yes.
Travel safely wherever you're going, Russ. Okay, public comments, we're back to public comments. Anyone in the room like to make a public comment? Yes.
Good evening, my name's Kathleen Quick, I go by
Can you
Kate.
pull your microphone down a bit?
Good evening, my name's Kathleen Quick, I go by Kate. I wanted to say thank you, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to help support the community further in these areas. But this is actually a comment I'd like to make for the DPW team. So I live at the corner of Saugatuck and Griffiths. They've been amazing. It's been a long winter. Every morning before 7 a.m., there's people out there salting the sidewalk, so thank you.
All right, thank you, and I appreciate your wishing to give your time and talent to the city. Yeah. Anyone online wish to comment? All right. That takes us to correspondence. We had the letter about the STR certificate. And just a reminder, we will be talking about short-term rentals at our next workshop. So we'll be talking about change of ownership and all kinds of things. So Takes us to council comments. Chris?
Good meeting. Stay warm. Sun's gonna come out soon.
Yeah.
Just a welcome to our new members of our boards and commissions. This town functions on volunteers, and thank you for volunteering. It means a lot to all of us. So thanks for joining the team.
Yeah, also echo that. Thank you for spending your time and volunteering with us, Kate and Miss Root, Leah Root. It was a pleasure meeting you when you moved to town and teaching how to make a bow and all the fun things and getting to know you and your husband. And you'd asked me, Gregory, I want to help out. I want to help in the community. What can I do? And this is it. And so I really appreciate you stepping up. You're really what makes the town who we are. You know, when we get new people to move to town and they're eager to help out, eager to learn, I think that's great. Also, just a side note, and I know we brought it up before, but I'm going to remind, I drove by again on the corner of Francis and Holland Street. And we've got that constant construction that's been going on at that house that has been blocking out that sidewalk without permits to block out that sidewalk. And we just still can't get through it. So I just wanted to remind folks that might be working on that or thinking about it.
Yeah, and I think Councilmember Gardner before the meeting, I don't know when you last drove by.
Brought
but-
it up at the last meeting.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know when you last drove by, but we've been working on enforcement, and I think the trailer's been moved, and so is the
Okay.
portage on. So the sidewalk area should be,
Yesterday, it was blocked off.
okay. Yeah, he said
There
that-
were what do you call, horses or whatever, that were blocking off, and the trailer was in the sidewalk area yesterday.
Well, the horse areas that blocking off the sidewalk are really there because there's not really sidewalk there. There's,
Okay.
it's all tore up and from
Oh,
equipment.
okay.
And they did they had permits to do all of that.
Oh,
Part of
okay.
that process, but they
All
didn't
right.
have permits to necessarily have the construction trailers in the right of way or the portage on in the right of way and things like that. So
Okay.
we've been working on some enforcement.
Yeah, I knew they had building permits. I just meant blocking the right of
Yep,
ways.
so the contractor knows we want, sidewalk poured as soon as, we get back into a weather pattern where we can pour concrete and have it last, and we'll keep it on the radar, but yeah, it should be a little bit better and a little bit easier to traverse now through there, so. yep.
And then, thank you. And then also a reminder that March 1st, that's this coming Saturday, is the euchre tournament for the athletic boosters over at the Ivy House. There's tickets still available, I understand. And so you can go to the Saugus page or anywhere on Facebook and find out how to get a ticket and come play euchre with all of us.
Joe?
Yeah, to echo Council Dean and Muncy and welcome you two on to the committees. Thank you so much. It's great to have people volunteer from the community and really appreciate everything that you're gonna do. Also, as I mentioned, today was my first board meeting with Cal Lake. A lot of time was spent recognizing Mark Becken.
Oh, nice.
So today would have been his last board meeting. Who's been there for, he doesn't even know, over 35 years.
Over 35. Wow, Barry had said 30, but
So there was a lot of reminiscing. Going way back into the Wayback Machine on, how Cal Lake got built out and his involvement along the process. So I just thought I'd call that out if you get a chance. Thank Mark for his service to the community. I know it's still ongoing, but certainly Cal Lake appreciates it. A lot of banter, well wishes. They even talked about naming one of those smelly retention ponds. Mark Pond, so.
Mark's porta potty.
yeah,
Anyway, a little intimidating for me because I'm gonna be filling some big shoes there, but.
yeah,
That's all I had.
Madam Mayor, could I just say, I'm sorry.
yes.
I also want to do a shout out to Sergeant Haas, who got this wonderful report for us, showing the time it takes to get there. That's really huge for the community to know.
I will just add again, thank you to Sergeant Hassan. If you'll pass that on to your team, we really appreciate what you do, and Commissioner Lubbers, same. Hats off to the city manager, PPW, and the Land Conservancy sort of discovering this plan and getting it up to date. And it's a big chunk of change that we can use judiciously to care for just incredibly just amazing land. So it's great to see things like that come to light, and it really is, it provides a lot of resource we didn't have. So, and that's it. Yeah, stay warm. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Now go ahead and make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.